Brian Ross, he is the principal planner from CR Planning, and Abby Finnis, she is the senior planner. So we spent some time together this afternoon and did some tours of the downtown area. Some of you that, and Brian and Abby are going to go into this in more detail, but if you look at a master plan, it's a project to give communities such as Austin some guidance in how to further develop their, in this case, the downtown area. The last plan that was developed and approved by the council was in the year 2005, and the main purpose for that plan was to kind of coincide with the Main Street project, and we have some additional opportunities coming up for the community, and thought the timing was right to proceed with that. So this is kind of the kickoff meeting, and again, thanks to all you for attending, and with that, I'll just turn it over to Brian.
Okay, works? Okay, great. Well, hi, I'm Brian Ross with CR Planning, and we're going to try to go over some things tonight about the process that we're going to work through with updating the downtown master plan in Austin. And I'll talk about kind of what is a downtown master plan, kind of what function it's supposed to serve, and how we're ultimately going to be using the plan as you guys move forward with your implementation. I'll talk about the specific process that we are going to be using to update the master plan, the role of the different stakeholder organizations that are here in the room, hopefully all of them here in the room to hear this. And then we're going to kind of just start to talk a little bit about some of the background information as we've been looking at it without having really talked in depth to anybody, and kind of some of the things that we see might need to be looked at in the downtown master plan update. And then I'm going to be asking you guys a few questions as well. We'd like to get some help from you, and indeed we're counting on the stakeholder organizations here in Austin to play a pretty important role in the development of this updated master plan. So I'm kind of going to be giving a little bit of a job description for the organizations that we're counting on for some help in this process. So, well, I'm going to introduce kind of our team, or at least the core members of our team first, and then I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves so that we can hear who you are and who you represent. Again, I'm Brian Ross. I'm the principal with CR Planning. I'll be the project manager for this particular project. And I'll be taking primary responsibility for the stakeholder engagement process, getting the stakeholder organizations to participate in facilitating the development of goals and policies, and doing some of the integration of the sustainability elements with the plan. Bob Cost with our partner organization here, a partner consulting firm, SEH, who has done, they're a fairly large firm. They've done some engineering work for the city of Austin. They have a lot of experience with downtown planning as well, and we brought them on board for this particular project, and they'll be probably doing about half the work in the overall project. SEH and Bob in particular, Bob Cost, brings the kind of urban design and landscape architecture elements, the design elements and expertise to the project. I fully admit I'm not a design guy, so I kind of deal with a lot of the policies and implementation strategies and things like that. However, Bob has done this kind of work in a lot of different cities, and so he's really bringing a lot of that expertise to the project. And here, you want to introduce yourself? You're standing here.
Go in order.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Abby Finnis. I have been with CR Planning for about a year now. And before that, I was with the Minnesota Department of Commerce, and I was lucky to work with Austin while I was there on a grant project a few years ago. And for this project, I will be primarily working kind of in the community outreach stuff. I've already gotten going on the background and inventory portion of the project as well to kind of kick it off and get things going. And yeah, and then I'll assist as needed. So.
Okay. And then our final kind of primary team member is is Heather, and I always mispronounce her last name. Keenance. I apologize to Heather. Heather is our transportation expert. She brings a lot of experience with doing transportation engineering. She's done a lot of work with complete streets, with multimodal transportation, and has worked with Bob on a lot of downtown plans. So she brings some real value here, because I do think that this is an important element to the City of Austin. One of the things that interested us about the community was that you've done things like adopt a complete streets policy, which we think really fits very well in with the downtown planning efforts. So, okay, so that's our team, and we do have a couple other team members from SEH who will be coming in and out, but these are the primary people who you'll be seeing and who you'll be working with on the downtown process. So that having been said, if I could just ask you guys, go around the room here, take a couple minutes, and if you could tell me, I have a three-part question here. Give us your name, and give us your organization or who you represent, and then give us the one thing that you think is most interesting or most important about updating the downtown plan. So, and hopefully, I'm giving you a little warning on that so you can think of something before it's your turn to actually do it. So, why don't we start over here?
Okay, you're going to have to tell me the third.
Okay, I will. Okay, name, representation, and what do you think is most important about the downtown plan that we make sure that we address in the downtown plan? Or just the most important thing about downtown. Maybe that's the easier question.
So I'm Laura Helly with Vision 2020. I think what I would most like to see come from the plan is sort of an outsider objective view of the community, because I feel like...
Yeah, for the TV, maybe we'll have you speak into that.
So glad I got to go first. So I'm Laura Helly with Vision 2020. What I'd like to see come out of the plan is an outsider's, more objective view of the way things would ideally fit together. I think as community leaders, it's sometimes hard for us to see things without the subjective passions of the particular projects that we love.
Okay, very good.
I'm Steve Keim. I'm on the Planning Commission and also a member of Vision 2020, specifically the Bike Walk Trail Committee. And so I think of downtown, and I think as one of our objectives, we want to make it walkable, bikeable, and multimodal access to the downtown area.
Okay, very good.
My name is Steve King, a lot like Steve Keim, only different. I'm a member of the City Council, and what I'd like to see in downtown is some continued development like we've seen. I mean, there's been great progress with the Downtown Main Street project. We can't deny what the work's been done. So just continue with rehabbing the businesses, and if I could have a wish list, I think it would be some kind of a more of a grassy knoll type plaza area somewhere in the mix of downtown.
Okay.
I'm here as a citizen, and I'm glad, like some of you too, Marv Rapinski. I relate here in Austin primarily to the churches and to housing. I was for some years and still on the board of the HRA, and that's still part of my interest. My concern in the planning is how to fruitfully and in an adjustable a way of peace, integrating the Spanish community especially, but other groups that are increasingly growing in our community, introducing them in a good flow in both education and in business. Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Marion Clennon, just a citizen of Austin. I'm also on the Vision 2020 Technology Committee. Basically, I just like to see Austin the way it used to be, with a lot of business downtown and just people downtown.
Okay, good.
John Gary. I'm with Development Corporation of Austin, which is an economic development private economic development organization. For the process or the effort here, I would like to see kind of comprehensive community engagement, which is sort of carrying on with what Vision 2020 has been a part of, but bringing it together with more of a hands-on. It's been a lot has been done, but now I'm bringing it together, various committees in a hands-on way.
Okay, good.
I'm Tom Steen, I'm the mayor in Austin, and what I'd like to see is a lot of what we are seeing. I'd like to see downtown become a destination. Myself, Janet, and Jeff Austin were up in St. Cloud last week, and on Wednesday night they had a music festival, and it turns out they have it every single Wednesday. Isn't that right, Janet? And there had to be 5,000-6,000 people there. They had a band. It was tremendous, and something like that. I mean, not only downtown, but we have the band shell and things like that. It's just, I'd like to see more activity, and I'd like to see the downtown involved in that activity.
Very good.
My name is Roger Boughton. I'm on the City Council, and I'm curious how the other architectural firms are going to relate to you as they cite the new Community Recreation Center. I'm also interested in how it's going to fit in with parking for the Spam Museum, which will soon be next year moving, a year from now or 2 years from now, moving downtown.
Okay, some good challenging questions then.
Tom Dangert, City of Austin, and too, like Roger, interested in how the Spam Museum development will affect the downtown area, plus the Artworks Center down in the old chamber building there. See how that draws into your plans.
I'm Jeremy Carolyn. I'm on the City Council, and I would, I guess, just like to see that downtown is inviting, just that it's a place where people want to go. So.
Okay.
Thanks. And Belita Schindler, I'm with Vision 2020 Downtown Committee, the Main Street Program, Austin Artworks Festival, and the Austin Artworks Center. And my goal right now is to get that Artworks Center up and running by the end of August.
Okay.
I'm Stephanie Leathers. I'm the chair of Vision 2020 Destination Downtown. I would love to see downtown become a meeting spot for all demographics of Austin, and would love for you all to, I guess, come up with a plan, both short, mid, and long term, that has a vision that fits for us in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Sarah Dowdy. I'm the director of the Main Street Project and co-chair of the Downtown Committee. And I guess I agree with Laura. I'm looking for some outside influence and opinion on what we're doing and what we can do better.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Reeds. I'm on the steering committee for Vision 2020, and then I co-chair the utility building with Mary Ann Waleski, whom you will be meeting next. And I feel that the downtown is the heart and soul of a community, and it needs to be doing well. If the downtown is doing well, you know, it reflects on the whole community. And so it'll be interesting to see just the design and the ideas that you come up with. We have so many exciting projects with Vision 2020, and we don't know exactly where all of them are going to be going, and many of them will be in the downtown area, and it'll be exciting to see how that all works out.
Good. Thank you.
I'm Mary Ann Waleski in Vision 2020 Utilities Project, and involved with the Artworks Center as well and the Artworks Festival. I'd really like to see this process incorporate Vision 2020, all the ideals and the ideas that were so wholeheartedly endorsed by the whole community. I'd also like to see some urban art in green space, like I think Steve mentioned, and just something that is a real doable blueprint for the years going forward to keep the momentum going in downtown Austin.
Okay, thank you.
Troy Nelson, I'm currently sit on the Austin Planning and Zoning Commission. I just look forward to change. I don't like the status quo, so I'm happy with whatever comes down.
Oh, good. That'll be easier then, yeah.
Easy to please. I'm Tom Konefke. I'm the director at the Cedars Senior Living Community downtown, and I'm just here to learn more about what's going on here. And I know our residents are, we love telling people that we're downtown. That's one of our benefits. And so, to me, I think of residents, how they can get around downtown. We're next to the Y or close to the hospital. That's good, but I'm curious what all this is doing. Love the flood control project. We're real happy that's going to be done with, and that's been great just this week. Seeing Stephen here has been nice that they're going to protect us. So yeah, we'd just love to see what's changing down here, and then I'll take it back to our residents and let them know good things you're doing.
Very good.
I'm Lynn Spainhauer, and I'm a Planning Commission member. I'm also a co-chair for Vision 2020 Gateway to Austin Attraction. And we have a big bite of the apple because we're working with the State Department of Transportation to look at beautifying all of I-90 and our many exits and entrances, and signage, and also visitor centers. So we have a lot that is tasked to us, but I find it very exciting. So what I'm most interested in downtown is I want to see it be a destination that people put on their calendar, that they say, we want to go to Austin this year, and I want to be the best representation of Austin that we can possibly be, that people look at us with like shock and awe, in a good way, in a good way. But I just want it to be something that they also want to return to. So I want to make it something that is really a destination in every aspect of the word.
Hi, I'm Holly Wallace. I'm also on the Planning Commission, and I'm on the Sustainability Task Force here in Austin. I really like all of the things that people have said here, and I like the idea of our city being very mixed use. You know, we have some core businesses that provide services and employment opportunities, good employment opportunities here, along with some nice aesthetics and some recreational opportunities, as well as tourism draws.
All right, good.
I'm Michael Jorrell, representing the City Council. I guess I like when we have music things downtown and events like that. We're within walking distance. We like to walk down there and push the stroller down there and enjoy the time. So.
All right, thanks.
Hi, Janet Anderson, Austin City Council, and I'm involved with the Main Street Project Vision 2020 and the Sustainability Task Force, along with Holly. I'm really looking forward to the ability to move forward with a progressive plan for a vibrant downtown, including upscale housing. We need to have lots of good reasons for people to enjoy downtown. Just at the League of Minnesota Cities conference that Tom referred to in St. Cloud this past week, there were several sections on, what makes younger, professionals want to be downtown, want to be in Austin, or any city, and part of that is upscale housing, kind of something that's like loft living or something like that. So I really think it's important that we include some housing elements.
Okay, thank you.
Stephen Lang, city engineer, interested in traffic flow and infrastructure.
Oh, such an engineer. Yeah, okay. Okay, very good. That was excellent. And we already have lots of good ideas and lots of challenges. So you get all that, Abby? She's our note taker too here. So, all right, so just to kind of move on here then, so you can see a little bit of what we're thinking, and hopefully, I think it seems to match kind of where you guys are talking about going. I do want to start with kind of what does a downtown master plan do? What is a downtown master plan? Because so one of the things that every planning project that we do, we always have to make sure that everybody's has the same foundation of knowledge about what the plan is supposed to do. And a downtown master plan is a specific area plan, and excuse me, unlike for instance, a comprehensive plan, it does get down into a fair level of detail on a site-specific basis. It provides a physical plan or a map usually of the current situation, and also a desired future, kind of what we call the desired future condition that you want to see after 10 or 20 years of work. It includes a descriptive vision and outcomes, so kind of the writing that follows and goes along with the physical plan or the map or maps. And then some goals that are a little bit more specific that help you understand how you're going to get from where you are now to that vision that's being described in both the writing and in the map. And then finally, some preferred strategies for achieving the vision and the goals. So we really talk about identifying where you want to go, where you are now, where you want to go, in several different levels of detail, and then how you want to get there. So that's basically, most plans are structured that way. In a downtown plan, we do that with a little bit more specificity because we get down to the parcel level usually and specific redevelopment or infrastructure investment projects. And as a consequence, there are a few other things that come into a downtown master plan. We do also compile background and benchmark information, some of which you guys already have, some of which we'll be helping you develop on a variety of different fronts, including things like the transportation elements, some of the infrastructure elements, the sustainability work that you've already done and how it might move forward, housing and economic base. I think, and then also some of the design elements that you already have in the community. We'll be identifying redevelopment priorities or incorporating the redevelopment priorities that you guys have already identified, because a lot of this work, we're not starting from scratch, of course. We're building on the good foundation of work that's already gone into a variety of different projects, including, or primarily, I think, the Vision 2020 process. Identifying design themes or standards that should be incorporated into redevelopment or into other kinds of events or themes that you may do in the downtown. Not every downtown plan includes a design theme. Sometimes I've seen some downtown plans with some pretty bad ideas for design themes, but it is something that you should consider, and I know that there's been some discussion in the past about design standards and kind of some basics set up about how you might want to have the physical environment, the facade of buildings, and the physical landscape look. And then prioritizing public realm investments. There are a number of things that you guys are already considering. There's some things that will need to be done in order to realize your long-term vision, and the plan should help you prioritize those public realm investments. So any questions about what a downtown master plan is or what it does? I think you guys, from your description, you already have a pretty good idea what role it's supposed to play. The process key points, so when I meant to eliminate that last block, sorry. The process that we proposed is, the first thing we want to make sure that we're emphasizing is we're building on the stakeholder engagement and the strategic organization of the Vision 2020 process and the committees, the ongoing work that the committees are doing. I did a lot of work in the past with an organization called Hometown Minnesota. I worked with Sarah on that several years ago, which was the Main Street program in Minnesota. After the Main Street program, actually, the formal Main Street program died. We formed in Minnesota back in the 90s. My company helped form a nonprofit organization called Hometown Minnesota that kind of carried through some of the statewide advocacy work around downtowns. And we followed the national Main Street model kind of process generally. And one of the nice things I like about the national Main Street model is that they require communities to develop a set of committees to help guide the process through the Main Street develop and redevelopment process. And they have a very specific format. They want you to do design and infrastructure, or design, promotion, business development, and organization. Yeah, the 4 points. Yeah, see, I blanked on the 4 points. I haven't done this. It's been a few years since I did it. So you guys already have a committee structure in process. I want to substitute your Vision 2020 committees for those kinds of committees. There is some overlap between those. There's actually some synergy and similarity between that process. So I actually think it's a good model to use, and we want to move forward with that. And we are therefore going to be asking the committees to be doing some of that work about identifying priorities as we move forward. And I actually will have an assignment that I'm going to give the committees at the end of the evening tonight that I want you to take home and incorporate into your agendas and bring back to us so that we can really make sure that the committee structure is doing what it needs to do in terms of guiding the comprehensive or the downtown plan. We want to make sure that we're putting the plan update into the context of the larger community, the programs, goals, regulations, and infrastructure that you already have in place, not just for the downtown, but for other places in the community. The downtown does not live in a vacuum. It doesn't exist by itself. It needs to be integrated with the rest of the community. Decisions you make out on the interstate have an impact on what happens in your downtown and vice versa. And we need to recognize that in the process. We want to make sure that we have providing multiple opportunities to stakeholders to participate and comment, including we have built-in face-to-face kind of contact and interviews, web-based outreach, some focus groups, and some public meetings. We have our partners at SEH just, who here has ever used Mind Mixer or heard of it? It's one of these web-based kind of interactive public systems. They just have a new subscription to it, and so they're going to be testing it out on you guys. It's a pretty slick process, but it allows you to put up draft things on the web and people to comment on them if they can't make a public meeting or if they're out of town when we have a focus group or something. There will be an opportunity to do that. We will be providing, multiple opportunities. We will also be providing specifically, as I'm going to go over in a minute, 3 points at which we're going to directly engage the community over the next about roughly 3 months. So I'm going to go through our approach on a task basis. We have 8 tasks, I think, in the process. First is project initiation and management, which is this meeting is kind of part about that. It's really forming the team and deciding how to move forward and doing the organization that we need to put together for the rest of the process. So this is a pretty kind of organizational structure task. But then the next task, task 2, is probably one of the most important tasks in the process, and that is we're going to do what we call a reconnaissance visit. And this is where our entire team is going to come to Austin and spend kind of an intensive day, or more than a day if we need to, but with the community and in the community. And we want to make sure that we're meeting all the stakeholders, that we're meeting with all the organizations, that we're touring all the sites, that we're getting into every nook and cranny of the downtown and in the priority sites that the community would like to see addressed in this process. This is something, again, that is right out of the National Main Street model of developing a downtown plan and a downtown organization, is to do this reconnaissance visit with a series of experts. So we'll bring in people who are experts in a variety of different things, from sustainability to urban design to transportation, in order to address those. And this is where it's really key in working with the Vision 2020 committees and with the other organizations that we all are on the same place and on board with participating in this reconnaissance visit, because we're really counting on you guys to help provide us with the information we need to do the downtown plan. Task 3 is an inventory. We've just started on this process. This is where we look at the existing vision and goals. We look at existing regulation and development standards. We kind of do the where you're at right now assessment. Where are you at with sustainability? You're a green step city. You're a step 2 city, I think. Been around for a couple years now. You have existing transportation information. We'll be gathering that up and doing an inventory, as well as probably developing some new material. We'll be looking at natural resource and recreational considerations and economic-based considerations. All this is kind of the assessment, really, of what is in your community already. And Abby is going to be leading a lot of that work, so you're going to, if you have information to give, as I'm going to ask you to give, we'll have you be talking to Abby about that as she assembles that information. Tasks 4 and 5 are kind of a combined, I put them together because they work well together, but it's creating and presenting what we're calling the straw man plan. You guys have already done all this work. You already have existing, you have your 2005 plan, you have a comprehensive plan, but then you have all the Vision 2020 work. You've done several. You have a housing study you just completed. You have a retail gap analysis that was just recently done. What we want to do is take all the existing goals and outcomes and priorities that you've already identified and form what we think would be a downtown plan that reflects that. And so we'll be taking all that information from the reconnaissance visit, and basically we'll do a downtown plan. But I want to emphasize that this is just our reaction to your material, because this is a 2-part process. One is we create that, saying this is what the plan that you guys, what we see your goals already reflecting. And then the second part of that is we come back to you and say, what do you think? And you may say, boy, you really missed the boat. You know, these things you really missed. It's kind of a placeholder, and it allows you to see how someone from the outside, as was already said, sees your existing goals, priorities, and vision that have already been articulated. So it's a two-step process. We create the plan, kind of an existing condition base map and a desired future map. We identify some synergies and conflicts, develop what maybe we think new elements, and then we come back to you and say, what do you think? And so that's the second piece after we do the reconnaissance visit, where we come back and we have another detailed discussion with you about the straw man plan. Oh, straw man is that's a term that not everybody knows what I mean by that. It actually comes from one of those what in my logic instructor in college called the one of the logical fallacies, the straw man fallacy, where people put up a straw man and then they knock it down because it's something that is just there for them to make an argument. And so the straw man is really just there for us to make an argument about what we think you mean, and you're there to knock it down if you want to knock it down. So that's kind of I always think of the straw man, the target practice kind of straw man. That's what a straw man plan is.
You have to meet my brother.
Oh yeah. Whoops. Because then the second part, after we do that straw man piece, then we've gotten some feedback from you on what you see is right and wrong and about our perspective. That allows us to then create what we would call the draft plan. And that is directly guided by your input on this process. We modify the straw man plan to incorporate your concepts. We develop design concepts. We start to really at that point get into a little bit more details about things like implementation and strategy priorities. And after the draft plan is done, we then come back and do a presentation to staff and officials and organizations, and then also to the larger community. And that's the point at which we want to have a community meeting where everyone is invited to come in and we do a formal presentation and everybody gets to kind of see the rollout of the draft. And that is another point at which we're going to be asking you guys, that's one of your roles as organizations key to this process of helping us get turnout for that meeting and making sure that people are going to be coming and commenting and reacting to the draft plan. We then take that plan, those comments, and we create the final draft master plan. Incorporating the feedback, modifying the draft, developing the plan, which can then go into the formal adoption process that you would normally use. So we kind of have 3 points of direct stakeholder engagement that we need to have of organized stakeholder engagement, which is the reconnaissance visit, which is when we come back and present the draft, the straw man plan, and then the community meeting at the end of the process. All along that, we will be asking the committees to kind of be giving us feedback as part of on their normal schedule about various aspects that relate to their committee structures, as well as some of the other organizations that are represented here in the room. So
typically, what's the time frame for something? Look at that whole process.
Okay, we designed this to be a fairly intensive process. We are looking at hopefully a 3-month process. That was what Craig asked for in the request for proposals, and my first thought was, how on earth can I get this done in 3 months? One of the ways that we did get it done in 3 months is rather than form a formal steering committee and kind of a facilitated process, which would take longer, we said, you guys have already done all that heavy work in the 2020 process. Let's build off of that and kind of assume that we're already, halfway through the process based upon the Vision 2020 work. So it's basically a 3-month process. Any other questions about the process or reactions to the process? Starting from today. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the role of stakeholder organizations. As I've already been emphasizing, we really see the Vision 2020 committees and the Vision 2020 organization as being the launching point that was the foundation that has already been built up, and we can now build a structure upon that. We see the different committees. There are 10 different committees. And we see that there are 3 that are directly related to the downtown. that have, kind of, this is their primary mission is related to something to do with the downtown, and that is the downtown Austin a destination point, revitalization of the Austin Utilities Building, and the Community Recreation Center. Those are all at least likely to be downtown projects, specifically and almost exclusively downtown projects, and so we see those three committees as being very key to the plan. But we also see some other connections, and I think all of the committees have some connection to the downtown because it's part of the community and it is the heart of the community. However, we do see these other four as kind of having some specific elements that I just wanted to touch on. Business-friendly environment, again, the downtown is the kind of commercial heart of the community, and that's that whole element of the business-friendly environment, which is community-wide but needs to be centered in a lot of ways in the downtown area, is very key. Gateway to Austin. This is something that is not going to be in the downtown, but it is the connection of the downtown to the larger region. I mean, in a lot of ways, that kind of gateway concept is to bring people in. And one of the challenges we think of for that committee on this project is to say, how are we going to make sure that physically and design-wise we're connecting that gateway to the downtown? Because this is really, ultimately, you want to try to connect those two things and do so in a way that is welcoming, that brings people in, and that brings them back. Expanded bike and walk trail system. You have a good trail system, and it comes into the downtown. And this is a real asset. We've seen a lot of communities that have done this, have used their trail system successfully to build their downtown, to build investment, to encourage private sector investment in their downtown, and to bring people in. And we have our people are trail crazy. I mean, it's a really popular thing. People love trails. I can remember at the start of my career when we talked about doing trails and we got nothing but pushback from people, and somewhere along the way everybody endorses it. So we think that the trail system you have and the work you're doing on it is really key to, especially not only in terms of bringing people in, but also creating that multimodal environment in terms of travel that allows people to get to and from the downtown without necessarily jumping in their car. And then finally, the embrace and maintain our waterways. You have this tremendous asset right in your downtown called the Cedar River. I have to say, I grew up on the Cedar River down in Iowa, but anyway. So we got all of you guys' stuff. Yeah. But nevertheless, it's a wonderful amenity, and there's a lot of plans for developing it and making it more important, and I think that that's something that's really key to the downtown. Personally, I have seen the most success in downtown revitalization when they've had an asset like a river and they've better linked their downtown to the river in terms of physical design, in terms of connections, in terms of all those things. It is just key to making it work. And of course, it works very well with the expanded bike and walk trail component of your Vision 2020 process as well. Okay, so that's kind of, I have one more slide on that, or a couple more slides. We also have other stakeholder organizations. I kind of put together a list here, and hopefully, is there anybody in the room that I missed here when I put this up here? Obviously, there's a lot of organizations and businesses that have a direct role in this process. We hope to engage them directly in the process as well. Most of these organizations are participating in the Vision 2020 process, so it shouldn't be too difficult, but nevertheless, we do want to at some point probably have individual conversations with these organizations as well. And then finally, I want to talk about not just who are the stakeholder and stakeholder organizations, but kind of what is your job description as stakeholder organizations. First and foremost, we need to plan for and participate in the reconnaissance visit. This is just so important for us to be able to get off on the right foot. If we don't get the right information from the community, we'll get it wrong, because we can read all the plans and look at all the data, but if we don't hear what you're saying and have you show us the things that need to be done, we're not going to get it right. So it's really important for planning that you as organizations and as individuals participating, that you help us plan for that reconnaissance visit and you participate in it when we come. Second is the providing background and inventory information. Every single plan that I've ever done, it seems to me I get about 70% of the way in, and then someone says, well, didn't you guys look at this report? And and of course it's something that is, oh, well, that would have helped a lot. And we always hope to avoid that scenario. It's almost inevitable to happen at some point. But we're really counting on you to make sure that we have the right information. And so we will be, again, asking specifically your committees and your individual organizations to make sure that we have that information in terms of data, in terms of reports, in terms of previous studies that will be relevant, or even, as I heard several people talk about things they wanted to see in the downtown, if you know of examples in other communities that you say, that's what I want, that's the kind of information we need to see as well. So it's not just what's about Austin, but also about examples about what you want to see. I mean, Craig just mentioned to me there was a art space study done, which wasn't on that list, and it was like, well, that could be an important kind of thing to include in our review, just in terms of assessing possibilities, even if it's just a mention in the downtown plan. Obviously, as I noted before, you need to review and comment on the straw man plan, because once again, like the reconnaissance visit, if you're not participating in that straw man review, if you're not knocking it down where it needs to be knocked down, it's not going to be done right. So we're really asking you to plan for and participate in that. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, promoting the community meeting on the final draft plan to make sure the community is participating in this process and that they can see we started with Vision 2020 and all the work there, and it's coming out now into this, culminating, one piece of it anyway, into this downtown plan. So that's kind of the process and your role. Any questions about your role? Did you have?
One thing on a couple slides back when we talked about stakeholders, I'm just wondering if we should add our two largest employers, which would be Harlem Corporation and
Mayo? That's okay. So the suggestion was to add to the list of stakeholders the Hormel Corporation and Mayo, the two largest employers, both of which are have a tie to the downtown, right? So that's a good point. Okay. Any other stakeholder questions about your role or about who's involved? Okay.
I have
nope.
a commentary to make about the news media, and I speak wistfully like as part of my life and getting in trouble. Trey is here representing the Herald. He's my friend, the last I checked. I hope it remains that way. He's a very fine reporter, I think. Today's Herald had in bold print, can you tell me what it had in bold print? Some immature idiot going 90 miles an hour in a stolen so-called taxi cab. Did you see it? This meeting should have been in bold print there. Trey, tell your boss, or I will. But all that we're doing here needs to have a lot of front page coverage. There are at least 6 or 7 persons in this room who occasionally write articles for the Herald, and I'm thankful. I hope they'll still print my stuff, but this is the main paper, and it has a lot of subscribers and eager people to know what's going on. And so at the risk of being foolish, but I'm not foolish, my wife will still love me, but I think I will maybe again talk to the Herald. I don't know, who owns this paper? Do they live in Florida? I suppose so.
Okay, well, that's a good point, actually. In the role of the stakeholder organizations, we're not the people who can get the media. Really, you guys are the ones who can get the media, and this is kind of an important point, I think. If there are opportunities to get some positive press about this and to publicize the work that's going on here, and if there's a way that we can help in that, that's another thing that you can bring to us, and hopefully that we can bring back to you. So, so now I want to talk a little bit about the initial kind of background and kind of assessment, and I'm going to let Abby, since he's the one who's kind of been looking at this, talk about this stuff. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and even just the newspaper, if I'm not mistaken, is located in downtown, right? So you guys are a stakeholder too, as far as engagement goes. And if anybody has any downtown-related stories that have been printed in the last 5 or so years that could be relevant to this, that would be interesting to highlight as well. So the first part of task 3 is to look into the background information, develop a matrix with your goals and strategies going, what do I have them now? I think now I have them on the column, the column headings, and then your policies and plans, you know, going down the rows, and then sort of just matching them up, putting them in matrix form, and seeing where there are gaps, where there are consistencies, and just kind of doing a comparative analysis of that, and using that information then to inform the straw man proposal and eventually the draft and final plan. So this is the list that I have compiled so far. You've done a number of studies, and fortunately a number of them are recent studies, so it's good information and it's relevant information. So that's very useful. There's also a number of programs that, you know, are being rolled in, like the Green Step Cities program, community survey results that we can look to and get information from that, you know, helps to speed up the process as we move along. So my first stab has been to look at these top 3 plans and sort of develop the matrix from that and sort of see what it looks like. This is kind of a snapshot of what I've created so far, and you can see I have the goals going down the side and then comprehensive plan, and how does that fit into each one of these goals. And these are the goals that were identified in the request for proposal that were sort of the main key points that the city would like to see as part of the plan. And you can see that I sort of started bolding the words that come up a lot. So historic preservation seems like it's important. Housing seems like it's important. Linkage and connectivity to other parts of the city, to the highway. Parking is important. Streetscapes through the Main Street program has been important as well. And I was doing this, and I was going through these ones, and I did it again for the Vision 2020 and the 2005 plan. And you can just sort of start to get the idea of, you know, what you all have identified as being important for the community to date. And we can start to put those all together, and I thought, why am I bolding these? There's a great tool, Wordle. So I took the matrix and put it into this program. If you're familiar with this, basically it's an engine where you can throw a bunch of text into it, and then it does an algorithm to figure out, you know, what words come up the most common. And so I did that, and these are some of the words, and I think that they are pretty reflective of what I've been seeing in some of the plans and stuff. And so we can do activities like this as we move forward too, and see what's important to folks and where it all falls into place, and how it can fit into the final plan. So that's sort of where I've started with this, and then the plans and stuff on the first slide that I had will also go into this matrix as well. And if there's anything that you all think of that should be included in this, that would be great too. So, are there questions on this piece? Yeah.
Say, I mean, that's kind of good for triggering ideas and
Yeah.
conversation. Nightlife is one of the things that I think is part of the quality of life that we need to get, you know, young professionals and younger families excited and interested in staying. One of our challenges is for, as you mentioned, Marianne, you know, Hormel, the corporate office folks, and also the Harvard Institute, which is cancer research facility. You know, we want to find more reasons for those people that work there to live here, as opposed to commuting
Sure.
because they think that's a better place to live.
Sure, and I was looking at the housing analysis. I was just looking at the presentation. I didn't get into the full study, but it seemed like the housing analysis said that the biggest demand for housing is going to be senior housing. However, one of the biggest things that you all are interested in is how do we get these professionals to live where they are working and what's going to be that draw. And I think you're right, you know, you have to have, right. And so it's going to be the type of housing, it's going to be the type of amenities and entertainment that's going to be available. And so that's what you all get to figure out. And the community members, you know, and maybe talking to those who are employed by these companies too. So, did you have, yeah?
It's a two-part question. I think many of us in this room know the sooner that we get the community involved, the better. And so the first part of the question is there a possibility of getting the community's input into what they feel is important for this plan on the upfront? And then the second part is what groups will be reviewing kind of your spreadsheet? Are those the key stakeholders or kind of?
So I think the big opportunity for the community to be involved is going to be the reconnaissance visit, as well as that mind mixer that SEH has.
And when you say the community involved, are you talking, we have organizations that represent people and stakeholders, are you talking about the general community?
I am talking about the public.
Right.
Because I think many of us have recognized that when you start a project and you have key stakeholders, that the community as a whole feels that they need to have an opinion and they need to give that opinion. If we don't, my concern is if we don't allow them that window on the upfront, then we're going to be in trouble by the time we get to the end where we're sharing those ideas. So that's just my own, people in the room may agree or disagree.
And part of what, you know, in order to meet the kind of time frame that we needed to, one of the things that we, in order to meet the time frame that we were trying to get to, one of the things that we jump-started, rather than starting with that community input piece first, we assumed it had already been done via the Vision 2020 process. So that's why it's important for us to be reflecting the Vision 2020 process, because that we're taking that as the community input piece at the start of the process so that we can get through that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. I guess I'm interested in everyone's input in the room to see if you all think that's an important part of this or that it should follow a different way.
It's been 3 years in August since it was wide open to the public. Can you say it louder, please, Laura? It's been 3 years since we had the wide open to everybody tell us your ideas. That's not yesterday.
Yeah.
Especially in the minds of the public.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have a?
I mean, I'm willing to throw out an idea. I don't know if it's, you know, a public survey that we put out there asking for ideas, but I think even if it's 20 people that we allow them the opportunity to have a voice, my opinion is that we do that, and that's just from my recent experiences. So I don't know. Anybody have a thought?
I just had one thought. I don't know how it'll fit with the time frame, but when we had the Austin Artworks Festival at the end of August, last year we had about 6,000 people attend, and we have spots during that festival where something could be set up or held.
At the end of August?
Yes.
Okay. That's about the right time frame.
Or even just people to comment and be able to verbally say their thoughts. So
okay.
It's just a
So
thought.
you're thinking like setting up a survey that they could take
At the festival, or talk to.
Okay, well, let me ask, you know, kind of this engaging the public at the front end. I mean, in the way we've set up the process is that we have, you know, do an inventory, we're doing reconnaissance, which is primarily with stakeholder organizations in terms of engaging folks, right? And then coming back with the draft plan, again, engage people. We will be doing at the point of probably starting even with some of the inventory work, but we'll be putting stuff on the web in this mind mixer thing and inviting people to do engagement there. And I guess where my question is going here is, if we were, for instance, to, we obviously have, 6,000 people coming through the door, if we could get 1,500 people to pay attention, that's a lot of people. But it's not until late August. Is that too late in the process to address your concerns?
I guess I don't know the full timing of the project, so.
Okay, well, I guess at that point, we would probably be looking at we would be coming up to the draft plan, so we have reconnaissance visit.
It sounds too late then.
That would sound, okay.
Opinion then.
Could your reconnaissance visit just have maybe like a 1-hour open forum that we could just
We put it in the paper and everyone's welcome and.
Yes, it could.
Okay.
It does take away from potentially some other things that we'd be doing. And there is a certain amount of logistical work that has to be done in advance that that's a piece that we weren't planning to do.
Yeah.
But if I actually like it when if the group of organizations can take the responsibility for getting that organized, we can provide the forum for that to happen on the day of the reconnaissance visit. And I think that's a thing that we can continue to talk about. If that's a concern, I would say that's.
I'm just interested in everybody, yay or nay, agree, or, it looks like everyone agrees.
What could it be too, when you're talking about the different Vision 2020 committees, if there was like this comprehensive coming together, like when we all came together at the college theater, for example, when like all these people came together and said, then kind of decided which committee they wanted to be on.
If that were to happen, where, kind of all the different, whether it was bike and trail or downtown destination or technology, whatever, everyone's in one place at one time as part of this process, because those Vision 2020 people that have already been identified, but that could be like, still open, like if you weren't actively involved with Vision 2020, because I think people kind of float in and out of that anyway, that could be the opportunity for the other people that feel like they haven't had a voice to have a voice.
So when did the kind of get together of all the committees that you just described? When did
That's the thing, Laura?
That was May of 2012.
Okay, so that's the last time they've all gotten together. Well, maybe I'm just brainstorming with you here, right? Maybe we can think about assembling another Vision 2020 get-together, check-in, and we can do it around the downtown plan as kind of a point. Does that?
That's what I was thinking could be really effective, because then there's that interplay between, these committees. I mean, some people kind of are on more than one, but that way you'd have that interplay and people would say it triggers conversation and ideas.
Right. Okay.
Can I just add? I'm not even sure it should be Vision 2020, to be honest. I'm just saying as the community as a whole, because
well, Stephanie, I'm saying Vision 2020 plus and the public, make sure it's promoted as, there's going to be X number of people from Vision 2020 committees there, but it's an open to the public thing, so that they have an opportunity to come. And then if there's also the internet opportunity, if, for example, they can't come on that day at that time, I think you've got some opportunities that way.
Yeah, and I guess the way I was thinking of that was that the Vision 2020 coming together was the vehicle by which the larger community would be invited to participate. It wouldn't be just the Vision 2020.
I guess I'm just saying I don't want to exclude people who have not taken the opportunity at this point to engage in Vision 2020 to come to the table and have a voice outside of that. So that was my only point.
Can I comment on that? Because I think I know where you're at. I mean, there's been some stuff around the signage and some of that stuff and things that have happened that were not the best experience for a lot of us. And I remember when we first were starting Vision 2020 that we were at the Holiday Inn and we had that large community where everybody put in their ideas and everybody wrote down exactly what they wanted and whatever. And out of that came our main focus and our main goals for. So why couldn't we do something similar to that where we have the same kind of format? We already did it once. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know how to do a community survey at our tables and all that kind of stuff. Couldn't we follow that same format that we used for our visioning process for Vision 2020 and incorporate that into a focused downtown area? Because then that has the Vision 2020 steering it in the right direction so we don't get out in the weeds, but it's also giving the community the input that they crave and that they want so that they feel like they're buy-in on this, which I think is really important. And I think that's what you're saying, is that we really need to make sure that everybody feels included, right? So I'm wondering if maybe we can do something like that as part of this process?
It sounds like there's ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I don't have any problem with this at all. We normally, in a planning process, when we're taking more time to do it.
Yep, I hear.
We would be doing a public kickoff meeting at some point with the larger community and inviting everyone to come. We wanted to emphasize here the kind of work that had already been done and acknowledge that. I don't have any problem with the other piece.
The problem that you have, though, is that the community, especially our community, they like to be included at the beginning. They like to be heard. They don't like us to come to and say, okay, this is what we all as talking heads decided we were going to do, and now we'd like to know which one of our ideas you like the best. They want their ideas incorporated, and I think that you just have a much stronger, considered, or at least heard. And I think that everybody in the community gets along much better, and you get a better feel for what really everybody wants when you include them.
And here's, I guess,
to a certain extent,
the point. The other thing, just to notice, I realize this is a city project as well, so I think it's just something to consider. And thank you, everybody, for putting your 2 cents in.
Yeah, well, and we can talk about how to work this into the process and how it would fit in the time frame and into the existing kind of budget that we have around how to spend time on different tasks. But I would see that if something like this were to move forward, it probably would slow the process down a little bit, which I have no problem with, but it would, I would also think that there would be more burden on you guys to help assemble that particular venue. Now, I mean, if that's, and if...
I think we would be, I don't want to say we, I would
Speak
also
for yourself.
help because it will ensure, I guarantee you, the success of what you're going to develop. And
Okay.
I think we all would like to see that succeed.
Okay, well, that excellent points. We'll talk about that and see if there's a way to work that in. I agree completely that if people feel like they didn't have an opportunity, if they don't see the Vision 2020 process as a foundation, then that might be a problem, when we roll it out at the end, right? No matter how well we've engaged maybe stakeholder organizations in the downtown area. But, and we were kind of thinking that it was enough of a foundation, but maybe it's not. I think it's a very good point, and
we'll make every effort possible to get the public involved. This meeting tonight will be on public television just for that sole purpose, to try to communicate with the whole community as much as we can. So.
And I I actually had at the end of the process here, a proposed date for the reconnaissance visit, which probably doesn't fit with your vision of doing it at that point, but we can talk about that. Okay, so let's see.
I guess I'm curious about one thing. A couple of you have mentioned including the immigration and Hispanic populations. How have you done that in the past, and how do you see doing that going forward? Have they been?
I would say overall we're not getting A's in that category. The efforts that I've seen have been most successful. I've used the school district's success coaches to network and to also choose times and locations that are conducive to those particular communities as opposed to the establishment.
Yeah.
A lot of times we pick times and venues that are not welcoming to everyone.
Right. Okay. So that should be a consideration as well as part of this.
Okay, so one of the other things that we have taken a look at, in addition to the kind of, we went to the other end of this, but we started with kind of what have you already said about your vision and your goals and kind of your long-term desired future conditions in different plans. And one of the things is that that when you do land use work like this ultimately is, your zoning is one of those tools that implements it, and it is supposed to be reflective of your goals and your visions and your desired future condition. And so I took a look at your downtown zoning and kind of compared it to kind of what kind of things you were talking about in your various documents, the kind of stuff that Abby had gone over. And so I just wanted to kind of briefly run through what are your regulations about development in the downtown area say and allow for and enable the community and the private sector to do. And so really there are 3 business districts, separate zoning districts in or around the downtown. So we have the neighborhood business district, we have a community business district, and we have the central business district. And they all have somewhat slight different characteristics and kind of targeted uses that they want to enable to have happen. There are 3 industrial districts, all of which are at least near to the downtown area: limited industrial, and the business industrial park. And finally, in your zoning code, you have 4 residential districts, 3 of which I would say are adjacent to or immediately adjacent to or nearby the downtown. And they have, of course, their own set of characteristics and development standards that would allow development to happen. One of the things about zoning that is a primary function of it is it identifies what kinds of development are permitted and what kinds of development are conditional and what kinds of development are not allowed. And that's a really primary function of zoning. You cannot, once you set that, you can't really change it via something like a variance. No variances under state law are allowed for uses. So this is an important element of kind of implementing any work that you would do. If you look at the central business district zoning category itself, it covers about 48 acres. It has a purpose statement at the start of it, which is something that people need to reread every now and then to make sure that it's being implemented and it's doing what you want to see. And the purpose statement here says it wants to permit and encourage the establishment of a wide variety of shopping goods and services in the central area in such a way as to attract consumers from a large trade area, excluding only those uses that materially interfere with the overall function of the central area. And that's there's some kind of questions about what does materially function with the overall area mean, but nevertheless, that's an important kind of overall purpose to look at. In terms of the way the permitted uses are structured in this particular implementation tool, it's what we would call a cumulative zoning approach, where you have neighborhood zoning, and it has a set of permitted uses there, and then it has community zoning, and all of the uses that are permitted in the neighborhood are also permitted in the community, and then all of the uses that are permitted in both of those are permitted in turn in the downtown area, as well as some light industrial and some residential. So really you have a zoning district that says, we'll let a whole lot of stuff come in here without much distinguishing, kind of whatever is allowed. And this is the way that zoning has been done in a lot of communities for a very long time. There are a number of new tools and new ways to do this that are more downtown specific that we will be raising in the implementation section portion of this process. So there's also in your zoning code, no specific height or density thresholds, no design or form requirements. Something that you might want to consider as well. I know that there's been some discussion in the past about design standards, and some communities make them voluntary, some communities make them required in the zoning code, but it is something you want to think about, because in the downtown area in particular, design form is very important to engendering the kind of development in the private sector that you want to see. So, and this is kind of where this comes through. I used to hate zoning; it was so dry and boring, and now I get really excited about it. It's a very keen tool if it's done right. And I just wanted to kind of run over this one little aspect of kind of implementation, because this is the stuff that's supposed to reflect your goals. And I actually think that the ordinance, and I think Craig said that he's been talking about doing some revisions to the zoning for some time. It hasn't kept up with your policy and your visioning work. And I think there's some opportunities to move ahead with that. And that's you're supposed to do all that work before you do the zoning. So you're on track to do it in the right way. So finally, I want to ask the question, move away from kind of the background piece, and start asking you some questions that we needed to be asked. When we looked at Austin downtown plan, we said, well, okay, you had this plan done in 2005, and it identified, you have there the core downtown district in the yellow, with the existing conditions as they were in 2005, identified redevelopment priorities in that same area, kind of did some traffic analysis. How does the traffic work? Where are the gateways? Where's the traffic flowing? Where are people coming in? Where are there potential conflicts or problems? Looking at things like green space, and again, this is how they were trying to connect ultimately to the river and the park area that you have there on the north to this core area. This is the kind of stuff that we'll be developing as well. But one of the big questions I had was, if you look at that area that you planned for in your 2005 plan, this is that area. This is the core downtown district in yellow. And for instance, if you look at your zoning district, it looks like that. That's your core downtown area. So which is it? They don't have to be coincident. You can do a downtown plan for a core area that is distinct from your zoning area. That's not a problem, but it should be a conscious decision. And when I'm looking at this from the outside coming in, and I say, okay, was that a conscious decision? Did you formally designate something that was distinct and different from the land use tool that you're using to implement? And then if you say, okay, now let's look at some of the 2020 and other plan efforts, well, then there's things that actually fall outside even the zoning district definition. I mean, the park area, the power plant are both outside of the downtown zoning district and outside of the core district that were identified in the 2005 plan. You have a potential community recreation site down near the post office. You have a commercial area that stretches out there on Oakland and First, is it? Avenues that connect directly to your downtown area. Are those something that are important to think about in the context of downtown? And you have the gateway area way up there at the top that hopefully will be moving forward, that's completely disconnected from the downtown, but obviously needs to be connected. So the question I have after looking at all this is, what do you think is the downtown area that we're planning for? And this is the first question that I was going to give to you as homework. In fact, why don't we give it to him as homework? You can hand it out. Hey, Abby's going to hand out the homework. Is that we'd like you to go back. We don't want to make you do it tonight, but we'd like you to go back to your committees or your organizations and do a couple things for us. One is to define where you think the downtown area ought to be that we're studying, that we're putting into the plan. What is the map that we're going to draw a line around? And second, what are the critical areas that are outside the downtown area, outside of that area, that we need to think about at least a little bit in the plan to make sure it's connected and discussed in the downtown planning effort? So the piece of paper that Abby's handing out has two sides to it. One side asks you to define the primary boundaries of downtown as it relates to the downtown plan update. And on the flip side, it asks you to identify the critical connections that are outside the downtown area, defining those primary considerations. And, you know, ideally, I'd like, you know, I kind of had thought we're going to do this, we'll start with the committees, the Vision 2020 committees. Each one of them says, how would they do this in the context of their goals that they've identified? And what I'd like to see this is for you to do this, and I'm not sure what the time frame is for when the committees are meeting relative to when we'd like to see the information back, because every committee is on a different schedule, and I don't know if how frequently they meet. But this is kind of the first bit of homework, and if we could actually get this done and get it back to us before we come for the reconnaissance visit, that would be a really good thing. That would give us a lot of information about how you guys see this process developing that may be different than the way we see it developing just looking at existing documents. Well, let me go to the next step. Planning for the reconnaissance visit. This is where, as I said, the entire project team is coming together. And when I say project team in this case, I mean consultants, staff, and organizations, and maybe even, as we discussed, the general public, coming together to talk about what needs to happen, what information needs to be brought forward, what priorities need to be brought forward before we start actually trying to write plans. And we want to do tours and interviews, et cetera, et cetera. But the big question I have for you is, when do we do this? And, you know, again, I wasn't thinking about the community engagement process that got raised here tonight in the discussion. I went to our consultant team members and said, when can we do this? And so we came up with a date, July 14th. That was what was good for us. And so I was going to throw it out and say, is that something that you guys could work with? Could we do a reconnaissance visit on the 14th? It does avoid your planning commission and your city council meetings. I think most of the kind of city functions like that, I'm hoping it avoids community events or other things. It might be, if we wanted to try to do that community engagement piece as well with the reconnaissance visit, it might be a little soon for that. I don't like to do a public meeting and engagement, inviting the general public, and not give them at least, you know, a month's notice, and that requires some organization, obviously, before that can happen. So I'm not sure that if we want to go ahead with this date for the reconnaissance visit, the kind of piece working with the committees and the organizations, if we were to try to do a community event, if we could do it at that time, I don't know. We can push everything off if we need to, but nevertheless, this homework that I'm giving you, my goal was to have you guys engage people and get us back some comments prior to the 14th so that we could look at it before we came here again to talk to you. I see a few nodding heads.
My instinct is go for the 14th and go for the public engagement on the 14th, and we'll pull it together.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then we gotta get our homework done by the 7th.
The 7th's the next council meeting, so I think that might be part of the discussion then. So maybe like even by the 10th or the 9th, would that give you enough time to look at it?
Yeah. We're not going to do any great analysis on it, but we will be able to read through it in that.
July 9th is like a deadline for getting this homework done?
Yeah.
I guess my concern is, does anybody know when the school board meetings are? Are they the second?
On the second and fourth Mondays of every month.
So that would be a school board meeting night then?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that a problem? I mean, it's hard to avoid everything, but... Okay.
On the second meeting of every month, the Austin Public Schools Board will meet here at 5:30.
Okay.
It's not ideal, but nothing hurt.
Well, I don't think it would be here, because it'd be too big. I think there'd be too many people here.
Yeah, we envision the reconnaissance. We would come perhaps even the night before or early in the morning and start to meet with organizations when they had time during the day. And if we were to do a community meeting, it would probably be an evening thing, and they wouldn't be here.
Oh.
Yes.
Your Honor, Excuse me, gang, I love you yet, but I'm thinking of moving toward a meeting of this nature to engage as many persons from the community who are not slouches and who love their community, but I'm thinking of this meeting where's the representation of the Chamber of Commerce, who in my 11-plus years find it to be a very weak organization, and that's another whole topic, and I'll get some letters on this, but also the religious community, and I connect with that more than anything, and some of you know me well. I have a very deep lover's quarrel with institutional religion, but it's kind of all we have. But really, the churches have not been intentionally involved in this process, I don't believe. I don't need more to do, but I've been suicidal before, but I think this is a great Friday in the Herald, my lovely paper. Hi, Trey. Almost a full page of all the ads for the religious institutions. There must be 40 of them. Everyone has their God, it seems, or Jesus. And where are they? They in communities. I started years ago in North Minneapolis in church work. That's tough territory, let me tell you. And that's why I speak without much embarrassment anymore. That's been the case for years. But I think the church community has in some way, I don't know how to get a handle on that. Steve, help me. But that's a marvelous, there are a lot of wonderful people there. And they would be, I think, if the right bridges were built, they'd be in a meeting of a public nature. Now I've spoken enough, and now my wife, I hope, still loves me.
Okay, well, there's another stakeholder group to contact, I guess, if we want to try to get something done.
I just want to say, from the committee standpoint, I think we need the week of the 7th to be able to get our committees together. And then if you wanted the feedback back from us, it seems like the 14th would be a difficult day.
Okay.
I don't think that it's possible to get our committees together during the week.
Yeah, well, and it is. The 4th of July is kind of one of those things that kind of gets in the way here in terms of people's schedule a little bit. So
We'll try to go with whatever schedule, but that is definitely my bet when we have a large committee.
And I think Janet's comment about the council meeting, I mean, I think we'd rather have individual council members' thoughts and comments instead of, you know, I think, yep.
I'm just thinking in terms of the 4th of July, and we got the 7th on that. But I agree, Craig. But maybe, Mary Ann, you're saying that the 14th is too soon?
Well, I think we need the week of the 7th to have our committees meetings first.
So then it would be more like sometime the week of the 21st? Better?
well,
Just the homework you're talking about is all, just tell us where the boundaries are.
yeah.
And how do we get it back to you, just on your email?
You can email it to me. You can get it to Craig, and he can get it to me.
Okay.
Whatever's convenient. In fact, if you signed up, we have your email. I can send you out an email with the Word document that this is on.
Okay.
If you want to rather type rather than write, you know.
Mary Ann, what if we just opened up any individual on the committee to turn theirs in, and you didn't have to work out an official committee statement on what the boundaries were?
Right.
That wouldn't take as much time, and then
But I think it would take some communication about this process, because not everybody totally understands what this is.
And, I guess there's two different ways we could address the date issue. One is that if you needed the week of the 7th to do the work, it would still be informing our work on the 14th even if we didn't see it, because you guys would have seen it and you'd be communicating that to us when we came and visited. So there's some value there. I mean, you could get it to us, we could read it, and we'd be maybe one step ahead, but the fact that you've gone through the work to define it you'll be prepared for the discussion when we come on the 14th. That's one way to deal with it, you know, or if you people wanted to move it off, we can move it off. I don't have any problem with that, as long as we can find another date that works. So if you're okay with doing the homework and just coming to the reconnaissance visit with it, we can keep the 14th in place. It'll make my life a little easier before the 14th, because I don't have to read everything, but we'll have to be attending to everything at the 14th a little bit more closely. And obviously, if you can actually give us something in writing at the 14th when we meet during the reconnaissance visit, that we can then take it back and make sure it gets incorporated, and we're not working from memory, you know, in discussions.
I'd like to shoot for the 14th.
Yeah?
To keep this process going. Maybe the rest of us have to hustle a little bit.
Okay. All right, well, that's my primary, that was my one thing. I wanted to make sure that that date was okay, because if you're not okay with that date, then let's change it. But if people are okay with that and you keep the process moving, then let's keep it.
So will the 14th include the community?
It sounds like now there's discussion that the 14th would include a community event. We need to talk to Craig about that, make sure that that fits within the rest of the schedule. But
Question, could you give copies of what you've presented to us? Marvelous, and well, thank you. To give copies to Laura for her office?
Yes.
Is that possible? Would you, I would find that helpful.
Yeah.
You gave some good information, but I have short memory.
We could also get it on the city's website, so.
yeah, and this is the kind of thing, once we get that mind mixer thing set up, website set up, this will also be going on to that. And our hope is that even as we update information, as we get through it, it'll go up there so people can see it. So, okay? So we're over the time that we said we'd take, but we had a really good discussion. So I think that was important. Yep, that's the end. So we're
Thank you very much.
building things.
I appreciate it for one.
Well, I'd just like to close in thanking both Brian and Abby for coming down. I think the community as a whole it's a very important project for the community. It's something to really be excited about, and the community will grow in continue to grow in a positive way. So thanks for taking the time and being here.
Okay. Well, certainly.